This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name, of course, Evan Jansen. The show is live and broadcast from our studios here in Auckland Park. Don't forget, we're also streaming live on YouTube right now, where the whole show is always available on demand on our YouTube channel now. Today, we scheduled to cross to the mining indaba called by the presidency to engage all stakeholders in the mining sector. Also, we look at a shocking case of a Vaalpark father that is accused of molesting and raping 19 girls, including his own 2 daughters. The process of transformation at South Africa's universities has been in the spotlight, and some say it's happening at a snail's pace. Today, our question deals with that. We ask you, how do we transform South Africa's tertiary institutions? At SABC Newsroom, there's the question. That's where you send us your contribution. Also, South Africa's teachers are buckling under the pressure of the unique challenges facing them in this country. And we close with a look at street workout, the latest sport trying to make it to the Olympics. Before all of that, though, let's get a quick news update from Manindo Mal.
Good morning, I'm Manindo Mal. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines today. Police are monitoring Lephalale and Limpopo this morning, where the situation remains tense. This after about 20 buses, a satellite police station and a municipal office was set alight, while a library was partly damaged at Marapong Township last night. Eskom says the chaos has not affected operations at the nearby Medupi power station. The damage was allegedly caused by a mob of former construction workers at the Eskom station.
We started hearing that, the building that we had here was being burnt down. It's the municipality office operating here in Marapong. And then later on there were, explosion of buses and fumes and all that. So it really got out of hand, and it was the worst of its own since the beginning of everything, with the growth of Lephalale and Marapong for that matter.
Government has until the 5th of next month to explain its failure to arrest Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir. This after al-Bashir's attendance at the African Union Summit in Sandton earlier this year. International Criminal Court judges want South Africa to explain why al-Bashir was allowed to leave the country without being detained. Al-Bashir is wanted on genocide and war crimes charges. If a member of the ICC fails to cooperate, the tribunal may refer the matter to either the Assembly of States Parties, the ICC's governing body, or the UN Security Council, who has the power to impose sanctions. In the west of Johannesburg, the Roodepoort Primary School will be reopened this morning. It was ordered to be shut down 3 weeks ago by Gauteng Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi. A mediation task team was then appointed by Gauteng Premier David Makura to find solutions to problems at the school. The school has been plagued with allegations of corruption and racism and has been the site of several violent clashes. The woman who allegedly kidnapped Zeppini nurse from a hospital 18 years ago is expected to be back in court. She is accused of kidnapping the 3-day-old infant from the Grooterschuur Hospital in 1997. The 15-year-old woman will appear in the Cape Town Magistrates Court on charges of kidnapping and fraud. On the Greek island of Lesbos, fresh clashes have erupted between police and refugees. This as Britain and France pledged to accept tens of thousands of more refugees from the record influx. Last night, Coast Guards and riot police struggled to control some 2,500 refugees on the island. Chaos erupted as crowds surged towards a government-chartered ship bound for Athens. And in sport, the South African-born Kevin Anderson has reached the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam for the first time. Anderson stunned British third seed Andy Murray after he fired 21 aces in 4 sets at the US Open. Well, remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just simply search for SABC Newsroom. Of course, you can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Janine. Now, it is a story that has stunned the nation and left the community of Vaal Triangle in the Free State completely distraught. The children of 18 families allegedly molested and raped by a 42-year-old father of two. After being arrested last year, the man now faces hundreds of charges relating to the alleged sexual molestation and rape of at least 19 young girls. Two of his alleged victims, his very own daughters. He's also accused of allegedly manufacturing and distributing child pornography. Now, here to tell us more is someone who's been working on this story very closely. He's SABC radio specialist investigative reporter Jacques Steenkamp. Good morning, Jacques. Thank you for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
Jacques, an absolute stunning tale this is. Just for those that aren't familiar with the goings-on or the developments in the story over the last little bit of time, just tell us about the story. Give us a little bit of background.
Well, this man is he's 42 years old. He was arrested on the 16th of October last year at his workplace here in Johannesburg. He lives in Vaal Park. He had custody over his two daughters. So apparently Interpol tracked him down from Australia and Canada. They got hold of images and videos, and they traced the IP address back to Vaal Park, where they arrested this guy. He's been in jail for a year now. He's facing 900 charges relating to the alleged rape and molestation of his 19 girls, including his own two daughters, like he said. When they raided his office in Johannesburg, they found girls' panties and DVDs and all child pornography kind of material. So it's very, very, very bad. I spoke to the commander last week of the sexual crimes unit of the police, Lieutenant Colonel Hela Niemand, and she described this as the worst of the worst in her 25 years of working on such cases.
The worst case that she's come across. It's absolutely shocking. Do we know anything more about the suspect? Did he work with children? What sort of background do we know about this person?
Well, from what I understand, he was a loving father. Everybody perceived him as a loving father. He worked as a safety officer, so he didn't really work with children. But from what's happening, from what I hear from a case, basically, as he used his daughters to lure other girls from the neighborhood to his house for sleepovers and stuff. And that's when he allegedly conducted these acts of his.
Let's just go through the case itself. Now, I understand he's been arrested last year and he's been in custody all along. How has the appearances in court and so forth proceeded so far?
There's been several appearances now. He'll be in court today, this morning again, apparently. Last week the case was postponed on Friday till today so that he can get legal aid. Because I think, from what I understand, he doesn't have lawyers anymore. So now the court ordered him to get legal representation so the trial can go ahead. They're waiting for the trial date, which we expect will be very soon.
At what point will we know the identity of this gentleman? Do you think?
I don't think we'll ever know the identity because of the fact that his own children are victims. So if we identify him, we'll identify them. And because of the law states we can't identify the children, we won't be able to identify him at all.
Yeah, that is rather shocking. Now he's facing a couple of hundred charges. How many charges exactly? And what are some of them, or what is the sort of roll of charges against him?
Well, there's 900 charges. This will relate to the molestation and the rape of the children. It'll also be because apparently he belonged to a child pornographic ring, basically, you can say. And to be part of this rings, you have to allegedly submit original material. And that's how he got into this whole ring. And he used his own children and the other children to make these kind of videos. Apparently, one of the videos, he documents how he rapes his own daughter. And these kind of stuff was uploaded onto these sites. So some of the 900 charges, the majority of them most likely will be for the images and videos, for each image and videos he was uploaded.
The sorry part of this whole case is that this is a father who had sole custody of his two daughters. And do we know the ages of these daughters?
They're 13 and 11. But last week I spoke exclusively to the mother. I couldn't reveal her identity, obviously. But I mean, she's very sad. She blames herself for what happened because she divorced this man eight years ago, and he got sole custody. Apparently, at the time, she was going through a rough time. She was on antidepressants, and because of what he did to her, apparently as well, the relationship was very rocky. So he got sole custody, and although she knew something wasn't wrong, nobody believed her, and he got the custody. And look what happened.
How are the kids doing? Do we have any idea how they're doing?
Well, something nice that the mother told me last week was that they were doing slowly better, but one of her daughters came to her and told her, asked her if something wrong with me because I'm dancing and I'm singing. So the mother turned around and told her, no, something's right with you. So she says something, the children they're doing better the last few days. I mean, obviously they're going to go back to court sometime. They're going to testify against their own father. That might be devastating for them. But at the time being, they're isolated, they're away from all the damage. The mothers moved away from Vaal Park. So they started a new school, started a new life, basically. So they're doing better.
The very concerning thing with this story is that it's not the first time this kind of thing has happened in South Africa. And the concerning thing is that the South African authorities had no idea that this was happening in this country. It took an Interpol investigation out of Australia to lead them to this point. Where are we in South Africa with this kind of thing?
Well, that's another interesting aspect. This Lieutenant Colonel spoke to Hella Niemand of this Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit. She's based in Gauteng. And from what I understand from our conversation over last week, they're the only unit in the country operating like this. So now she's going around the country and they're giving training, but they're also arresting people. There's another case Interpol brought under their attention from Belgium in Antwerp. They arrested 4 people last week, 3 men and a woman, 3 from Pretoria, 1 from Cape Town. And apparently they're going to arrest about 20, 30 people more that are in possession of fresh child pornographic material.
Why do we think are these rings operating through South Africa or in South Africa?
I think it's a worldwide phenomenon. I mean, when I lived in Britain, you had loads of pedophiles that side as well. It just happens all over the place. I think in South Africa, with the internet and stuff becoming more prominent, I think this kind of people, they surface more. And I think the police's methods as well. I know they're trolling the dark web for these kind of culprits and catching them rightly so, which is a good thing.
On a personal note, before I let you go, are you going to write a book on this one? And in a year's time, we'd be able to get the real detail of the story?
Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see, huh?
Well, Jacques, thank you very much. Author and radio specialist, investigative reporter here with us at the SABC, Jacques Steenkamp. A really sad story and a sad indictment where humanity is at this moment in time, of course, is the story about a 42-year-old father who raped his own daughters, put them on the internet in a child porn ring, and also 18 other families affected, 19 girls, 900 charges. He'll be in court today. We'll be back. The father will be back in court. Which court is it?
The Sasolburg Magistrates Court for the time
being. Back in the Sasolburg Magistrates Court today. Now, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa has emphasized the importance of prioritizing sustainable management of our forests as the world confronts global warming. He was addressing delegates at the 14th World Forestry Congress in Durban. Ramaphosa also called on the delegates at the Congress to amplify the significance of forests in mitigating the harmful effects of climate change. Let's have a look at some of your views. Groundwork says, we have seen more than 100% increase in extreme weather events. Kumi Naidu speaking at CSAP 2015 Civil Society Counter Conference to the WFC 15. African Union says, Deputy President pleased to see the World Forestry Congress engage the continent's youth on sustainable management of forest resources, talking about the Forestry Congress going on in Durban. There it is. JF Termer says, according to a 2015 UN forestry assessment, 129 million hectares of forests have been cleared since 1990. That is a 50% decrease in the rate of net forest loss. That is a shocking statistics. Alex Montizon says, let's save our forests. Between 1990 and 2015, 129 million acres of global forest was lost. Most of those losses were in Africa and South America. Today's picture of the day comes from Christophe Delattre, and it's captioned #migrant crisis. A refugee from Syria prays after arriving on the Greek island of Lesbos. Now, I can tell you that there have been lots of clashes with authorities and refugees on Lesbos, and we'll keep you updated how that story developed over the days and weeks to come. Now, let's just take a quick look at the front pages from around the globe. We start in Europe, where the Times reports that British jihadists were killed by a Royal Air Force drone in Syria after security services foiled a barbaric plot to attack major public events in the United Kingdom. Riyad Khan, 21, an Islamic State fighter from Cardiff, was targeted by a drone operated from an airbase in Lincolnshire. Then, we move to the USA. The USA Today says that France announced that it would accept 24,000 asylum seekers over 2 years. Britain plans to accept 20,000 Syrian refugees, and Germany set aside $6.7 billion to help new arrivals in that country. Finally, China. The South China Morning Post reports that mainland stock exchanges plan to install force-wide circuit breakers to stop panic selling after botched official efforts to stop plunges in the volatile A-share markets. Time for us to take a look at what's happening around the country in South Africa. We're starting in Johannesburg with a trial of Sindisiwe Mangele, accused of killing hip-hop star Nkululeko Flabba Habedi, is expected to continue in the High Court sitting in Randburg. Second state witness Mpho Motswari will continue giving his testimony today. Then, in the Northern Cape, after pleading guilty on 5 charges of rape, 16 charges of sexual assault, 2 charges of attempted rape, and 22 charges of the production of child pornography, former Kimberley-based child photographer Rudolf Kutsia will be sentenced in the Northern Cape High Court today. Then in Cape Town, the woman who allegedly kidnapped a newborn baby girl, Zephany Nurse, from her hospital crib at Groote Schuur Hospital 18 years ago now, is expected to appear in the Magistrates Court on charges of kidnapping as well as fraud. Time for us to take a quick break. We'll be back with Stu Dlamini right after this.
Even the best of us need support.
Bring on!
For more than 10 years, we at SEDA have been giving non-financial support to and developing SMMEs as well as cooperatives, helping them to create jobs. SEDA, together advancing small enterprise development.
Welcome to Network, a technology news program that also discusses what's trending in social media in and around Africa. MTN has launched its new movie and television streaming service, Front Row. If it's trending, we will find it. That's Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom. Now, the issue of transformation in South African universities was thrust into the spotlight again over the last couple of weeks following the release of an online documentary at Stellenbosch University called Luister. Since its release on the 20th of August, the 34-minute documentary has been watched more than 300,000 times on YouTube and has been trending on social media across South Africa, and it seems to be spreading. Last week, 10 scenes played out at Stellenbosch University at the Elsenburg Agricultural Training Centre campus outside the Boland town. A student demanded that the 50-50 language policy there be changed. The university's management has come out and said that they're working very hard to become more inclusive, but there seems to be a gap between their sincere intentions and the reality experienced by some. Now, joining us from our studios in Durban is the University of KwaZulu-Natal's Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Professor John Mubangizi. Very good morning to you, Professor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben, and good morning to your viewers.
Professor, the University of KZN is considered the most transformed tertiary institution in South Africa right now. Tell us, how did you achieve this, and what is it that you think you're doing differently from other universities?
Thanks, Eben. It would be very difficult to recount all we have done in a short interview like this, but I will highlight a number of things that we have done as a university to drive transformation. Yeah, first of all, we are a merged institution. We merged the University of Durban Westville with the University of Natal to create the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Now, on the creation of the University of KwaZulu-Natal, we had to put policies in place to drive transformation generally and specifically. And some of these policies dealt specifically with transformation, as I've just said. We have, for example, policies on racism and racial discrimination. We have a policy on language. We have policies on retirement, policies on selection and recruitment, and a whole number of policies that take transformation into account, either deal with it specifically or indirectly. But also we've got a strategic plan in which, or within which, transformation is clearly embedded. For example, in our vision of being the premier university of African scholarship, we also have a number of values in that strategic plan that talk to transformation. We also have specific strategic goals and strategic objectives that talk transformation. And more importantly, we have what we call success indicators against which we measure the achievements we have made. And some of these really talk to equity in terms of staff and in terms of students. Those are just 2 points. There are a number of other points. For example, at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, we don't have a transformation office or a transformation officer. This is because of the realization that transformation is the responsibility of all. Students, staff, management, leadership. Yeah. It is everyone's responsibility to drive transformation. And as a result of that, we have what we call the Transformation Charter. This is a charter that plans how we drive transformation. It is a charter that has been embraced by everyone in the institution. It was actually launched by the Minister of Higher Education and Training about 5 years ago. And it has informed and helped us drive transformation successfully. Yeah. There are a number of other things. For example, we have specific programs and projects. Programs, for example, intended to identify and appoint black South Africans and mentor them to become academics. And also, of course, the recognition that transformation and excellence are not necessarily mutually exclusive. You can be successful and in academic excellence, but also be a transformed institution. And underlying all that, of course, was a committed leadership, all the way from the council, from the vice-chancellor, executive management, senior management. And it is, as I said, it is a concerted effort led through the governance of the institution that has actually led to what is seen as the most transformed institution, higher education institution in the country.
Professor, how do we find the balance? We see right now in South Africa that our campuses are being opportunistically, in a way, politicized through our SRCs, and there are lots of violent clashes on a variety of them that we can call. How do we find the balance between what is best for the students and what is good citizenry and good politics for students on campus?
I think that's a very important question. But I think, first of all, politicians must stop using universities as political kindergartens. Because universities are established for a particular purpose. And it is, I think, important that all of us, students, staff, parents, the community, understand the roles and functions and responsibilities of universities. And as you know, they are threefold. First of all, universities are there for knowledge production. Secondly, for teaching and learning. And thirdly, for responsible community engagement. And the emphasis here is on responsible. So we all have to realize that, obviously students need to develop leadership skills while they are at university and also prepare themselves for the political world, the socio-economic world. But I think what is happening is that this mark is being overstepped, and students are getting getting involved in such a way that goes beyond preparation for the political and socio-economic world.
Professor, we've run out of time. We'd like to call you back at some point because we feel that this discussion needs to be escalated. Maybe we can have some sort of panel discussion in the future because it's such an important issue for South Africa to come to terms with. That's Professor John Mubangizi, who is the Deputy Vice-Chancellor at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. They can boast what they call, well, what is rated as the most transformed university here in South Africa. We'll try and continue the discussions around tertiary institutions in South Africa on the show, and our question of the day deals with that. It asks of you, the question of the day, how do we transform South Africa's tertiary institutions? How do we keep the balance between overly politicizing it and still maintaining the integrity of the institutions of learning? That is our question of the day at SABC Newsroom. That's where you send us your contribution. Now, President Jacob Zuma has convened a meeting of the Mining Sector National Consultative Forum at the Presidential Guest House in Pretoria. The forum, chaired by the presidency, brings together government, organised labour and business to discuss developments in the mining sector. Lonmin and Amplats have already said they'll shed thousands of jobs. The forum was established in 2013 to implement a framework agreement for a sustainable mining industry following the violence that erupted on the Platinum Belt, including the Marikana killings between the 10th and 16th August of 2012, which claimed the lives of 44 people. Now, I've got Mr. Stu Dlamini, who is standing by, representing organised labour today at this meeting. Very good morning to you, Mr. Dlamini. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Ibn. Thanks very much for having me this morning. I'm here in the consultation forum.
Mr. Dlamini, what is your expectation from this meeting today? It's a very important meeting, isn't it?
Indeed, it's very, very critical meeting that the President has convened today in the midst of a crisis in our country, of threats to thousands and thousands of jobs in mining, and just not only in mining and other sectors too, given the fact that employers have indeed announced that they intend retrenching workers. This time around, we're having this mining indaba so that we share ideas, we put our heads together, led by the President of the Republic, to ensure that we fight off and put aside this threat to many jobs. We need more people being employed other than retrenching people. We need our youth getting into the employment other than getting people being retrenched as it is envisaged. The economic crisis indeed is a reality in South Africa. That's why leaders at the highest level in labor, in business, in government, we are indeed gathered here together to ensure that we can find the solutions that will offset this threat that is facing South Africa.
Do you think, Mr. Dlamini, that there is the will on the part of business and the will on the part of labour to come together for the good of the country during this crisis, this difficult time?
We have to not only give confidence to South Africans, we have to act together to ensure that we find solutions. We put our differences aside. We ensure that we stick together, finding solutions to this. It doesn't help to keep holding on your position whilst the economy is going down, whilst people are getting retrenched in numbers, as you can imagine, as it is envisaged recently. Those differences must take the back seat. Business, government, labor have got to get together to find solutions.
Wage negotiations until now have also not been resolved. Do you think that at this meeting you can set aside that, or do you think wage negotiations have to be settled in order for the entire industry to be moved forward?
Look, the current phase of negotiations must continue in earnest and in good faith. It cannot be that in the midst of negotiations, employers will say we want to retrench workers instead of negotiations in bad faith. And we believe that those are the issues we shall be able to discuss here, so that there is genuine negotiations. But also when South Africa is facing an economic downturn, a crisis, as leadership in the country, we have to close ranks. We have to stand together and say, how are we going to protect the jobs that are there? How are we going to ensure that the economy in mining sector does survive? How are we going to ensure that the mineral resources that are come underground are able to benefit the South Africans? The mining communities around the mining houses have got to feel that South Africa is rich of these minerals, not because they see them being offloaded into a truck and transported out of the country whilst they are remaining hungry in the country. We must discuss the issues of industrialization. We must discuss beneficiation. We must ensure that South Africans are able to benefit from these minerals from the ground.
Mr. Dlamini, I thank you for joining us today. It's a very important day for yourselves, but also for South Africa. We wish you all the best in the conversations, difficult ones I know that you'll be having with the presidency and with business. Thank you. So Stuart Dlamini will be representing, of course, organised labour at the mining Indaba, it's called now. That is happening under the guise of the presidency. Thousands and thousands of job losses are on the cards if we don't come to terms with the economic downturn that we've been suffering of late. Let's hope that sanity prevails and we can all move forward through this crisis in our mining sector here in South Africa now. Clashes have erupted overnight between police and refugees on the Greek island of Lesbos, which authorities have warned is on the verge of explosion. The Greek government and the UN Refugee Agency have deployed extra staff and ships to deal with some 25,000 stranded migrants on the island. Here are some of your views. Caroline says, after Merkel's horrific stand on Greece, what she's doing for the Syrian refugees is a welcome act of humanity and welcome balancing of scales. Yes, the Germans have opened their country to all refugees, and all European countries should follow suit, we say. Lee Jones says, good to see Germany is accepting so many Syrian refugees. But where was the humanitarian concern in Greece? Well, the Greece were living beyond their means, is what the Germans say. That's why it's so difficult to continue allowing them. There you see a wonderful picture of refugees in Europe as they march on their way to Germany. Thousands upon thousands of families are on their way to Germany, where they'll be trying to rebuild their lives. Well, now it's time for us to take a look at our Newsroom Facebook page. Of course, you can just tap in whatever, or on Facebook, tap in SABC Newsroom. Our page will pop up. You like the page? If you like the page, in your stream, you'll get all the updates all the time. Today, government's crime-fighting blitz, Operation Fiela, has led to the arrest of more than 9,000 people between April and June for crimes ranging from murder and sexual offences to drugs and theft. Then, Kenya plans to launch a military offensive against Islamist militants who have set up bases in a remote forest at the northern tip of its Indian Ocean coastline bordering Somalia. And Germany told its European partners they must take in more refugees as it struggles to cope with record numbers of asylum seekers as police in Hungary used pepper spray on migrants who broke out of a reception centre at the border. For more updates on that story, go to our Facebook page. Time to take a break. This is Newsroom right here on SABC News.
The city of Durban and its surroundings is one that is filled with history and cultural diversity.
Durban is a natural paradise known for its gorgeous coastline of sun-kissed beaches and subtropical climate.
Flea markets are essential to visit if you want to experience Durban's Afro-Oriental atmosphere.
The city of Durban is an elegant, mature and ambitious city. The vendors at the Vic offer a range of African and Oriental products, an eclectic mix that is hard to resist.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays at 5:30 p.m. CAT.
Your World makes it its business every evening to round up the leading local stories and international news to keep you informed all the time.
Make a date with Your World every evening for all the news headlines around the world to keep you abreast with knowledge.
Catch Your World for headlines across the world every Monday to Friday from 9 p.m., then Saturday and Sunday from 7 p.m.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines today. Damage caused at Marapong Township in Lepalale in Limpopo has been estimated at millions of rands. This after about 20 buses, a satellite police station and a municipal office were set alight in the township last night. Eskom says the chaos has not affected operations at the nearby Medupi power station. The damage was allegedly caused by a mob of former construction workers at the nearby Eskom station. In the west of Johannesburg, the Roodepoort Primary School will be reopened this morning. It was ordered to be shut down 3 weeks ago by Gauteng Education MEC Anyaza Lesufi. The school has been plagued with allegations of corruption and racism and has been the site of several violent clashes. And in sport, the South African-born Kevin Anderson has reached the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam for the first time. Anderson stunned British third seed Andy Murray after he fired 25 aces in 4 sets at the US Open. Well, remember you can find all of those stories, of course, on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just search for SABC Newsroom. Of course, you can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Evan, now back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, it appears the majority of teachers in South Africa cannot cope with the demand of their jobs. This was revealed at the Teachers in Daba that was hosted by the Department of Basic Education in Pretoria last week. In recent years, the department has seen a significant increase in the number of teachers who take sick leave. More so than any other form of leave, which is a clear indication that their general well-being was compromised. Speaking at the event, the South African Council of Educators spokesperson Temba Ndlovu said teachers had to deal with a lot of issues unrelated to teaching, such as a lack of safety at some schools. Now, Ndlovu also added that as an organization, they want to come up with a booklet on financial well-being, which could be distributed to teachers so that they understand finances and budgeting better, because an unhappy teacher at home obviously can't produce at work. Now, to get more on the outcomes of the Indaba, we are joined from our Pretoria studios by Temba Ndlovu, who is the spokesperson for the South African Council of Educators. A very good morning to you, Temba. Thank you for joining us.
No, good morning.
I've got a shocking statistic here, Temba. Some reports claim that 9 out of 10 teachers in some areas need medication just to cope with the daily pressures of their jobs. Is that really the case?
I think what is important, which we must understand, is that we've come to realize that a good number of our teachers are working under very stressful conditions. And those stressful conditions need us as a nation to attend to and look at how best we could assist our teachers. I know one of the speakers at that Indaba indicated very clearly that 9 out of 10 teachers in the country actually are under antidepressants because of the stressful situation and the stressful nature of their jobs.
That is a big number. How do you believe this is affecting the day-to-day operation of schools then?
We are saying actually as council that that has a very negative effect on the day-to-day running of schools, and we believe it is important that as a nation we deal with these matters, address all issues that are related to teacher dissatisfaction. One of the issues that has come up in the open, actually, is the question of safety of schools, the question of teachers not getting what they believe they should get in terms of remuneration. And I believe it's important that as a nation we deal with these aspects and address them as soon as possible.
How are we going to, how do you think we overcome the issues, things like safety, things like the remuneration issue? What were some of the other concerns that the teachers raised at the Indaba, for instance?
In actual fact, what we have seen this year and what we have decided upon as the South African Council for Educators together with the Department of Education is that it is important that we look at other ways of celebrating and recognizing the importance our teachers are playing in the lives of the nation. One of those issues which teachers are raising sharply, which we have indicated, are issues of security, issues of finances, issues of workload, issues of parental involvement and parental assistance in terms of education. And I believe it is important as a nation that we look at all those aspects, and on our part, as says, we are having engagements with a lot of financial institutions like your Financial Services Board. We have had a meeting with the National Credit Regulator. We'll be meeting the GEPF so that we look at how best can we give information to our teachers on how best they could manage finances. We are of the opinion that if a teacher is unhappy financially or a teacher is not able to cope financially, that has an effect actually in terms of the teacher not being able to perform at the level of the classroom.
Yeah, that is the case.
The issue of security in schools, we really need to look at it. We've just had a situation recently in KwaZulu-Natal where a principal of a school was murdered. It is a shocking kind of instance, and was saying, calling on all involved in education, let's look at how best we deal with securing our schools for effective and efficient education to take place.
What about things like therapy? Isn't it time for there to be therapy offered at schools for teachers? And what about training? Should we revisit training a little bit?
Both therapy and training are very important to us. In actual fact, we are looking at a situation where in our engagements with all stakeholders, we need to look at how best can we ensure that properly funded posts for therapists are made available to schools so that teachers are able to access counseling. We have seen the nature of the teachers today dealing with a lot of social ills and social challenges, and we believe therapy needs to be provided for teachers to be able to cope with such situations. And, of course, in the question of training of teachers, we believe that also needs to be attended to. And we are hopeful that our teachers would embrace the continuing professional teacher development system so that they continuously engage in training and participating in professional development activities so that they are able to cope with all the situations that confront them at the level of the schools.
Finally, before I let you go, I've got to ask you the question around the annual national assessment. Some people are calling for the program to be scrapped. What's your view at SACE?
In actual fact, we haven't had any much discussion on it, but in terms of our own views, is that it is important to have diagnostic tests. But having those diagnostic tests, it's important that we then follow up on the results that come out of it and see how best we resolve and readjust whatever needs to be readjusted in order to make sure that education goes on well in our country. I can therefore simply say, we as a South African Council for Educators, we don't have much of problems with ANA tests or diagnostic tests. However, we want to be emphatic that those tests need to share with us, need to give indications of where problems are, what strengths, what issues do we need to deal with, and therefore try and implement those kind of diagnostic results that come out of it.
I thank you for joining us today. That is Tembo Ndlovu. He's the spokesperson for the South African Council of Educators. Of course, we were talking about the challenges facing teachers. In some areas, 9 out of 10 teachers are on antidepressants. Can you believe that? That's really, really shocking. Now, persistence finally paid off for Kevin Anderson as the towering South. Can we roll the pictures? Can we roll the pictures? Thank you. South African prevailed in a slugfest with Andy Murray to reach the quarterfinals of the US Open, whilst another tennis giant, John Isner, was beaten by Roger Federer. It was a fantastic win for the South African. Let's have a look at some of the comments. Your views. Can't believe, what is it? I can't believe that Andy Murray lost to Kevin Anderson, says happy birthday Bailey. Great performance from Kevin Anderson, proudly South African, Kevin Anderson. Well, he doesn't want to play for South Africa, so I don't know if it's proudly South African, to be honest with you. Lord Taylor says, well done, Kevin Anderson, representing Mzansi. No, he's not representing Mzansi. He doesn't want to play Davis Cup for South Africa. He reckons that his own career is much more important. What a match by Kevin Anderson last night. His return game has improved tenfold, and as a result, he no longer found wanting in rallies. Says, yes. Well, Kevin Anderson doesn't really want to play for South Africa. That's a fact. Now, although it might not feel like it this week, spring has finally arrived, but if your summer body hasn't arrived yet, well, then listen up, because this year you might want to forget about hitting your traditional indoor gym to get in shape. This is calisthenics, or street workouts, are taking root here in South Africa. The only requirements, your body weight and fresh air. Now, to tell us a little bit more, we're joined by the co-founder of Team Gravity Core, Smith Mangana, and by one of his teammates, Nkululeko Makaya. Very good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Making me feel bad. I'm going to have to put my...
No, you shouldn't.
Tell us a little bit about the idea behind street workout and how you guys are going in South Africa.
Well, calisthenics, basically, it's own body weight training. So how we found out for ourselves was we got tired of doing the normal routine in gyms. And so we wanted to do something that was more different and more fun. And so we decided, to use our own body weight to train. That was before we even found out that street workout is actually a sport all over the world. So when we saw on YouTube that, there's a sport that's big everywhere else in the world, we started incorporating that with our own routines that we've, tried to do. And we were the guinea pigs, basically, of those moves. But in SA, we have seen the growth of street workout because in all areas of the country we are represented. We have teams in Bloemfontein, Cape Town, Klerksdorp and all those areas. So it's really taking shape in SA. And what we're trying to do now is to present the sport to the community at large, to the whole nation, that, there's a sport which is calisthenics. You don't have to pay any gym fees. You can do it any way you like. Yeah. And, that's what we're trying to do. And as an association as well that was formed was to take it to the people.
Now, you talk about using your own body weight as the resistance.
Yes.
But what about the guys who have a little bit more body weight? Is it something that anyone can start?
There's literally no discrimination. I think there's no gender discrimination, there's no handicapped. So literally anyone, if you're able to get off your bed every morning, you're able to start street workout and calisthenics. Obviously, there's extreme levels, but you start off from the beginning. Something as simple as a pull-up and a push-up. That's where you start off from.
And it's a functional movement.
That's fantastic. You're going to show us some functional movements just now. I want to talk to you about the competition because, there's always the competitive elements to it. This weekend, you've had a competition. What was the reaction? And are we going to see this kind of thing go around the country?
Yeah. On Saturday at the Constitution Hill, we had a World Cup. So now it's called the World Cup stage. It's a qualifier to to the super final in December, which will happen in Moscow.
Mhm.
Now, there are 21 countries hosting different World Cup stages, the qualifiers. And South Africa happened to be one of them,
Yeah.
which is our, what we've hosted.
Mhm.
And like I said, from where we come from to being able to host this kind of an event, it really shows that the sport is moving forward, and hence it would be.
No, you guys
interesting.
you've competed internationally. How did we stack up to the guys in the rest of the world?
Yeah. Well, when I started, because as the first African to represent, we were fairly good in a sense that we've never seen the other stuff that they use. I mean, we only had this pull-up bar here. It's called a pull-up bar.
Yeah.
Only after we've attended the World Championships, and then we realized that we need to incorporate more. But we've done
show us
well.
while he's doing the talking, you do the business for us. Show us one or two movements.
Really?
How the big guns work, man.
So this one is called the muscle up.
Eh?
It's called a muscle up.
A muscle up.
Muscle up. So what he's doing, it's actually a freestyle.
Yeah.
And this one is called a front lever. But there's basic movements that one can do from a pull-up bar. But to answer your question, we've done fairly well. Nkululeko in Norway came 11th. And, that was at the super final.
Yeah.
But I'm now on the judging panel, the international judging panel. But fairly in South Africa, I think we're gaining momentum all over the world. People are starting to take note of SA. Yeah.
It's an incredible sport. Guys, we've run out of time. You can maybe show us that thing again. That looks crazy, man. Street workout, calisthenics, that's what it's called. And it's the next big thing. Watch it. One day it'll be at the Olympics. Yeah.
Interjections about the deployment of soldiers in townships provoked a war of words between Diane Barnard of the DA and the Minister of Defence, Mosivuya Mapisa-Nqakula.
I have been accused by the Minister of slaughtering people.
Honourable Kola.
May I assist the Minister, sir? I'm Honourable Kola Barnard.
Thank you very much. We actually ran a campaign in the 80s that actually threw you out of the townships because you were actually maiming our people.
So I would ask that I have an apology and a withdrawal.
I'm not going to withdraw.
No.